The story starts with a boy driving his Ferrari to school. And the name of this lucky guy? It's Shin-yun. Everyone is shocked and starts taking pictures. Then the bad guy gets out of the car. The boys nearby begin to complain, saying this jerk just got to school and is already dating the most popular girl in the second year. A boy wearing glasses with shaky eyes says that life is simple if you're born rich and handsome, you can choose whoever you want. But the friend next to him disagrees. He says Shin-yun isn't just choosing one girl, he's choosing all of them. Even the girls in the first year aren't being left out. Shin-yun is walking next to his date, and let's just say, she walks confidently, holding her chest high. The girls watching them are jealous, wondering if they should try to get his attention again. One of the girls, putting on lipstick, tells her friend not to give up. She says you have to create your own chances. Meanwhile, the king himself is just enjoying the moment. But this rich and fancy life didn't last long. Right after he graduated from high school and started university, the fun ended. That's because his family, which owned 3 travel agencies, went bankrupt. And not only that, they were left with millions in debt. When he arrives at his dorm, he calls his friends to play League of Legends. But they tell him to go away, saying it's no fun if he's not the one paying for everything. Right in front of him, he realizes something painful. His so-called friends left him the second he lost his money. The worst part? His parents and sister now live in a tiny apartment, and he has to stay in a university dorm. In this moment, all the freedom he once enjoyed is gone. He thinks everything is over, until something else happens. He walks up to a girl leaning on the wall. This is his current girlfriend, ᴄᴏᴘᴘύʀɪლიЈ. Right away, she gives him the bad news. Their relationship is over. She just tells him that she hopes he'll find someone who understands him better in the future. Shin-yun is shocked. He says they've been together for 3 years. How can she just break up like this? Doesn't she have a heart? But ᴄᴏᴘᴘύ doesn't feel bad at all. She says their relationship was never based on true love. And if they ever meet again, he should never call her king again. She hates that nickname. Actually, she's already halfway out the door and tells him never to see her again. But Shin-yun just stays calm and sighs. As she reaches for the car door handle, saying her friend has arrived, he stops her. She asks what he wants, and he tells her to give back all the expensive designer bags he bought for her. That makes her really angry. She says that after 3 years of dating, the least she deserves is to keep all the stuff he gave her. Shin-yun replies that if she doesn't want to return the bags, they can go on one last trip together. But she gets even angrier and tells him to go to hell. Then the guy in the car calls her king and tells her to get in. At the same time, the guy looks at Shin-yun and asks if he wants a ride. Shin-yun notices something strange. When he called her king, she got mad. But when this guy says it, she doesn't care at all. Even so, Shin-yun just tells him not to worry, saying he lives close by. But the man insists and says he's not in a rush. If Shin-yun wants a ride, he just needs to ask. The guy says he just wants to make sure he gets home safely. But Shin-yun knows what this guy is really up to. He wants to embarrass him. So Shin-yun leans against the car window and says the guy is truly kind. But there's no need to worry, he only lives a few steps away. Then he opens the car door for ᴄᴏᴘᴘύ and tells the guy to take good care of her, because she's a really nice girl. The man grins and says not to worry. She's in good hands. Shin-yun nods and says he appreciates that. He adds that men like them should always treat women well. That's why he wants the guy to know her favorite condoms are mint-flavored. Also, there's no point in buying her super fancy lingerie. She thinks it's uncomfortable. And as for her favorite roleplay outfits, she likes doctor and police officer costumes. Right then and there, he shares all this personal info, just to make the guy realize he doesn't know anything. But the guy in the car doesn't like being schooled like that. He slams the door and quickly drives away. Shin-yun just stands there, thinking the guy didn't get it. He was only trying to help. Plus, he truly hopes Wanqing does well in the future. He figures she thinks this is the right decision. They no longer have anything to do with each other, so he wishes her a good life. Our guy is what you'd call a calm and detached Sigma. He didn't even flinch after the breakup. He burned them both with his words and walked away like it was nothing. But then, something unexpected happens. A system shows up. And it says maybe everyone deserves a chance to live a perfect life. That's when the perfect life system starts to load. Suddenly, Xinyuan's stats appear on screen. 21 years old, 1.82 meters tall. But honestly, why are we even seeing this? Who knows? No one really cares about that part. Xinyuan just stands there, confused and unsure about what kind of weird thing is happening in front of him. And then, the system starts to speak. To live a perfect life, it says, Xinyuan doesn't just need money. He also needs admiration from women. His first task? Spend money on a woman with an affinity score of at least 60. By doing this, he'll earn more admiration, and any money he spends on her will be returned 3 times over. If her affinity increases during that time, then he'll earn 6 times the amount he spent. At least the math part is simple. Basically, spend money, earn 3x. If the girl likes him more afterward, earn 6x. Xinyuan looks around nervously, still trying to understand what's going on. And then his first target shows up. It's the so-called trash tier counselor. But let's be honest, there's nothing trashy about her. She's topped her. She compliments Xinyuan, saying he's a real man. A guy shouldn't be down just because a girl dumped him. Xinyuan stands there, unsure how to respond, until he notices something floating above her head, a tiny heart with the number 65 inside it. That's her affinity score. Right away, he starts thinking maybe this strange system is actually real. The counselor tells him not to let the breakup get to him. Xinyuan, feeling a bit shy, thanks her and thinks to himself that this might be his lucky break. Then, the counselor casually asks if he applied for a scholarship, since, well, he's completely broke. She adds that it might get approved soon. But Xinyuan is already placing too much faith in the system. He quickly tells her not to worry about the scholarship anymore. It wouldn't help that much anyway, especially with how deep his family's debt is. Then the counselor smiles and says that if he ever runs into any trouble, even with romance, he can come talk to her. She waves goodbye and walks away. Xinyuan is left standing there, thinking things over. She meets all the system's conditions. So technically, if he spends money on her, the system should triple it. Time to try it out. He gently grabs her hand, thanks her for her kind words, and asks if she'd like to grab some bubble tea with him. Just like that, he's already making his first investment. She looks a little shy but clearly happy. Right away, Xinyuan starts doing the math in his head. He had 87 yuan? Yeah, this guy is seriously broke. That's about $15. But if the money triples, he should end up with 99. And just like that, it happens. That's when he starts thinking, if he just kept spending on her over and over again, the money would keep multiplying. This might be the break he needs to pay off his family's massive debt and finally crawl out of this miserable life. It's time for him to become his old self again, or maybe someone even better. But there's a catch. Tripling 99 isn't going to solve anything big. So his first real goal is to get a large chunk of money and find the right person to spend it on. And this guy? He doesn't waste time. He goes straight to loan sharks, takes out bank loans, and somehow manages to scrape together 49,000 yuan. It's incredibly risky. He might end up dead or with his credit destroyed forever. But it's all or nothing now. His only concern is how to give a gift to his teacher without raising suspicion. She knows he's broke, so there's a chance she'll refuse anything too expensive. After an hour, he shows up at her door with a Prada bag that cost nearly everything he borrowed. His plan is to lie, tell her it's a cheap knockoff so she'll accept it without overthinking. But the funniest part? He's standing at her door, knocking, and he doesn't even know if she's married. When the door opens, she's there, and you can tell from the look of her that she probably puts love into her cooking. She's surprised, wondering what in the world this kid is doing at her house. Xinyuan jumps into his speech, saying she's always supported him since he started school, and he's finally realized how much that support means. He wanted to bring her a small token of appreciation. Lai Xiao immediately notices the bag looks expensive and refuses to accept it. She says that as a teacher, it's her duty to help students. There's no need for gifts like this. But Xinyuan, smooth as ever, reassures her. He says it's nothing fancy, just a fake bag, only cost him 200 yuan. He insists it's simply a thank you gift. She hesitates, clearly feeling a bit guilty. It would be rude to reject something so small, right? So she agrees to take it but says that when his birthday comes, she'll give him something in return. Suddenly, smoke starts coming from the kitchen and she runs off to deal with it. And this guy? He doesn't waste the opportunity, he walks right in. Technically, he was invited now, right? As long as she doesn't have a boyfriend and he doesn't end up dead, he figures it's all good. More importantly, it's time to cash in on that system bonus. The spending is marked as successful, and boom, his money jumps up to 120,000. After paying off the loan shark so he doesn't end up tied up in Rio, he'll still have around 80,000 left. It's not like Shin Yuan, a former millionaire, isn't used to having money, but the feeling of being back on top after hitting rock bottom is different. As he's processing everything, Lai Xiao calls him out, asking why he's just standing there staring at his phone. She tells him to sit down already, but Shen Yuan has one pressing question on his mind. Where's her boyfriend? To his surprise, she casually says she doesn't have one. This sends Shin Yuan into action. He moves in to help her take off her apron, but it's all tangled up and he's struggling to get it off. Just as things are getting awkward, another queen bursts into the house, asking what Shin Yuan thinks he's doing. This one? Lai Zhao's sister, Lai Meng. The scene she walks into? Well, it's a little unusual. While Lai Xiao invites her to come eat, Shin Yuan quickly claims he's not doing anything, trying to avoid the situation. But Lai Meng isn't buying it. She hugs her sister, introduces herself, and immediately makes it clear that she doesn't feel comfortable with Shin Yuan in the house. Feeling the tension, Shin Yuan decides to leave. He's suddenly not hungry anymore. Lai Xiao finds it strange since he was just about to sit down, but her sister tells her to stay away from him, calling him weird. Lai Xiao tries to defend him, insisting he's just a student, but her sister is convinced he's up to something suspicious. On the streets, Shin Yuan's mind is on something else, figuring out who to invest his money in next. He can't keep spending on Lai Xiao without a real relationship between them. Just as he's lost in thought, someone bumps into him. Looking over, he sees his friend Huang Hebao, whose hand is shaking. Shen Yuan asks what's wrong, and Hebao explains that his goddess, Fang Minhui, went to the movies with a guy named Xiangping. Shen Yuan is confused. He knows for sure that Hebao has never been involved with Minhui. After all, she's the goddess of a certain class, and someone like Hebao would never be with her. Hebao urges Shin Yuan to understand the pain of losing a goddess like that. But as they stand there, something catches Shin Yuan's eye. The artist of this story is a genius because, suddenly, two baddies show up, the blonde and the dark-haired one. And there she is, Minhui, the so-called goddess. Turns out, Hebao was right. She's already back, and she did indeed move to a hotel with Xiangping. Shen Yuan, however, realizes his friend is destroying his own dignity, so he'll never have a chance with Minhui. But then something surprising happens. Above Minhui's head, there's a 72. That's her affinity score. As she stands there with her toned abs, her friend casually mentions that Shin Yuan just got dumped. As soon as Minhui hears this, she remembers. It turns out she used to simp for Shin Yuan. Minhui used to go out of her way to buy him drinks, juice, and all sorts of things, just to try to get closer to him. It's clear that back in the day she was really into him. And man, the artist who's behind this scene? A legend. A master at capturing angles. But Minhui's friend? She has no love for Shin Yuan. She thinks he was bad when he was rich and arrogant, and now that he's poor and arrogant, he's somehow even worse. Shin Yuan, however, isn't bothered. He watches as the little hearts above Minhui's head start to drop, signaling a decline in her affinity score. He knows he needs someone to spend money on, and Minhui seems like a good candidate. So, he turns to his friend and asks if he'd be sad if he and Minhui started dating. His friend laughs it off, saying there's no way, Shin Yuan isn't the rich guy he used to be, driving around in his BMW 4 Series. But as long as Minhui isn't with Xiangping, he's happy for her. Hearing that, Shin Yuan seizes the opportunity. He dashes toward Minhui and calls her, Comrade Minhui, clearly trying to get her attention. She's tall, and before he can even say much more, her friend steps in, ready to protect her like it's some kind of football game. She demands to know what Shin Yuan is doing there. Shin Yuan, unfazed, goes straight to the point. He asks Manhwa if she's free tomorrow to grab some sushi with him. Manhwa, completely confused and blushing, wonders why he's suddenly asking her out. Her friend already knows what's up. He's inviting her to Xing Sushi, a place where the bill never drops below 1,000 yuan. Shen Yuan, being the smooth operator he is, quickly adds that he actually wants her help picking out a gift for his little sister. He trusts her good taste since she's always given him nice presents. This genius move gets him one step closer to what he wants. He simply walks off saying, "See you tomorrow." Manhwa, still unsure since she just went to the movies with Zhang Peng, starts to hesitate. But her friend, who was originally skeptical of Shen Yuan, now completely flips. She tells Manhwa she can't refuse an invite to Xing Sushi, it's free sushi, after all. And while she admits that Shen Yuan might be a little arrogant, at least he's hot, unlike Zhang Peng, who may have family money but is, in her words, ugly as hell. So, with that, she encourages Manhwa to go for it. Fast forward to the restaurant. The fancy dishes are being served, and of course, the artist times the shot perfectly, right when Manhwa is about to sit down. The moment is drawn out, and it feels like the entire scene hinges on this tiny, awkward pause. Meanwhile, Manhwa learns that Shen Yuan's family is struggling financially. She tells him he shouldn't be spending money on her when he has his own problems to deal with. As she's about to sit down, or maybe she already is, the artist is relentless in creating that uncomfortable pause. Shen Yuan, however, starts feeling a little awkward himself. He realizes it's been only 2 months since Manhwa last gave him a gift, and now here he is, spending money on her. The entire situation feels different now. There's an underlying tension, both from his financial struggles and from the past they share. Manhwa asks why he suddenly invited her to dinner and what this is about buying a present for his sister. He responds that he's always wanted to invite her out but never found the right time. The hearts above her head begin to drop. Realizing that wasn't the answer she wanted, he quickly adds that he remembers how she always bought things for him and loved chatting with him late at night. As soon as she hears this, the hearts start rising again. The system's influence is undeniable. Shen Yuan stays calm as 40 minutes pass, and he's already paying the bill. Despite a discount, the meal costs 2,700 yuan. Manhwa is stunned at how much he's spending. When she went out with Xiangping, the rich guy, he was miserably cheap, but here's Shen Yuan, spending everything. Her affinity with him started at 72 and has now risen to 76, earning him a bonus reward. From this meal alone, he's set to make over 10,000 yuan, which seems unreal. As they head to the mall, Manhwa's feelings for him grow stronger. She grabs his hand, excited to go shopping. Then, just like the $90 billion story, they bump into his ex, Wanting, who's with another guy. Wanting is furious to see Shen Yuan already with someone new. The old man she's with is also pissed, especially since he spent a fortune just to get Wanting to even acknowledge him, and now this broke guy is with another girl the very next day. Shen Yuan, still calm, invites Manhwa to help him pick out gifts, but just then, the old man calls out to him, pretending it's a coincidence they're both there, and suggests they take a walk together. Wanting is furious, demanding to know what Shen Yuan is doing with this girl. Shen Yuan nonchalantly tells her he's here to buy gifts for his sister. The old man tries to humiliate him by mentioning that the mall doesn't offer any discounts. Wanting then walks up to Manhwa, warning her not to be fooled by this guy. Shen Yuan steps in, asking what exactly she means by that. She ignores him, and the old man sneers, claiming Shen Yuan is embarrassing himself by pretending to have money when his family is bankrupt. Shen Yuan is starting to get frustrated, wishing these two would just leave him alone. But then the system speaks up, reminding him that someone living a perfect life shouldn't be humiliated. He needs to spend money to increase his affinity with those who like him and decrease the affinity of those who hate him. For every 5 hatred points generated, his money will double. Shen Yuan had initially planned to stay above it all and not make a scene, but the system pushes him to act. So, he tells Manhwa, "It's time for us to go." As they walk through the mall, it becomes clear that Shen Yuan is known here, with women whispering about the former rich boy. Manhwa seems hesitant, since everyone knows he's broke and won't be buying anything. But then, a saleswoman rushes over, eager to serve him. Meanwhile, Manhwa hints to the old man to buy her a handbag. The saleswoman assigned to Shin Yuan is furious. She's used to serving rich customers and leaves the poor ones to others. Manhwa is already at the cash register, clearly expecting the cuckold to pay for everything. Meanwhile, she helps Shin Yuan pick out a handbag that represents his sister's youthful energy. The saleswoman beside them doesn't show much enthusiasm, just noting that the bag is quite expensive. It's over $50,000. The cuck is standing off to the side, frustrated, as he only planned to spend $20,000 on her today. Yet, these bags alone have already exceeded $100,000. But Manhwa plays the game well. She encourages him to show how rich and powerful he is by humiliating Shin Yuan and spending a ton of money on her. The problem? That amount of money is far beyond what he has. His credit card can't even handle it. At that moment, Shin Yuan speaks up, telling the saleswoman he wants both bags Manhwa picked out, plus the accessories. The couple, still in disbelief, turns around in shock. Manhwa is taken aback as well. He's really about to spend that much? The saleswoman, who knows he's the former rich guy now struggling, starts nervously calculating the total, her hands shaking, unable to say the price. But before she can, Shin Yuan hands her his card. "Just ring it up," he says. The saleswoman is thrilled, knowing the commission will be huge. Meanwhile, Wanting stands there fuming, confused. How is he not bankrupt? The old man mutters that Shin Yuan must have borrowed money. But Shin Yuan, smirking, flips the situation. He tells the old man not to focus too much on his purchases and suggests he should be worrying about making Wanting happy instead. Maybe even buy her another handbag. A wealthy and powerful man like him should be generous and spend at least $700,000 in the store. Otherwise, it would be strange. The tables have turned, and now the couple is shaken. Wanting turns to the old man, demanding to see his financial power. The old man, who's only rented a luxury car by taking out a huge loan, is sweating, knowing he can't afford any of this. He starts making a phone call, trying to figure out if he can even cover the bill. Eventually, he walks off, pretending to have a very important meeting. Wanting glares at him, calling him the worst, and storms off, leaving both of them furious. Shin Yuan, however, doesn't care at all. He was just playing the game because the system told him to, and because money always feels good. He hands one of the handbags to Manhwa, but she refuses, saying it's way too expensive. He insists, telling her it's a reward for putting up with all the nonsense from Wanting and the old man, who dragged her into their drama when she wasn't even involved. Then he hands her another bag, saying she deserves even more than this. Manhwa is a little confused, unsure how to react. Manhwa thinks the bag is for his sister, but smooth as always, Shin Yuan tells her, "Now that I think about it, I'm not sure if my sister will like it. But you picked it, so I know you like it." He's unlocked the revenge system now and just wants to spend as much as he can to get the money back. Manhwa, however, hesitates to accept it. She doesn't want to look like a gold digger. She starts pushing it back, saying, "I really can't." But he grabs her hands and tells her, "Don't worry. This is only the beginning. There are more gifts coming. And if you don't accept this one, I'll be really sad." With that, the mission completes, and he gets 3 times what he spent. Manhwa stares at him, thinking she just found the perfect money tree, and she no longer feels too scared. He tells her it's time to head back to school. If she buys anything else today, it would be too much. Manhwa stands there silently, watching him as he climbs the stairs to his dorm. He passes by his old fake friends who are talking about throwing a party. As soon as they see him, they say they'll turn the volume up real loud so he can hear how much fun they're having. Poor guy just stands alone in front of his door. Once inside, his friend tells him that bastard Zhang Bing apparently went out with the school's flower and is bragging about it to everyone. Shin Yuan calmly tells his friend to relax, saying that Zhang Bing's days of glory are numbered. Manhwa is going to end up with him, not that loser. His friend tries to wake him up, mentioning that Manhwa went to the movies with Zhang Bing, but Shin Yuan doesn't bother explaining, thinking it's time to go home and handle things there. At home, his famous money-mining uncle, Yod, is already there. Shin Yuan greets him dryly, and his father tells him to rest while the adults discuss matters. But Shin Yuan stays behind the door, listening. Yod says he needs the full payment or he won't survive. Shin Yuan's mother steps in, saying when Yod needed money to open his car wash business, they helped him, so it's wrong for him to act like this now. Her husband tries to calm her, but she won't back down. She insists that they helped Yod through hard times. Yod, in response, says he's being very patient because they're family. If it were anyone else, he would have kicked them out already. Shin Yuan's mother starts losing it, but someone grabs her arm and tells her to calm down. Things will only get worse. They'll find a way to get the money. That's when the system kicks in. The system says, a perfect life cannot be disturbed by debt. All the money spent paying off his father's debts will be doubled, and he'll even get a bonus of 1 million to spend on a car. This is perfect for Shin Yuan, as he was already planning to use his earnings for this. Meanwhile, his mother is holding on to some jewelry, family heirlooms passed down through generations, as it's the only way to pay the debt. What Manhwa doesn't know, though, is that Shin Yuan had already sold some of those jewels a while ago just to buy presents for his girlfriends. At that moment, he opens his door and reassures them, saying there's no need to worry because he has the money. Neither of them believes him and tells him to stop joking. This situation is too serious for him to be messing around. But our boy stays calm and tells them he's not joking. He then tells his father to check his phone notifications. As soon as they do, they see that 200,000 has just dropped into his account. They demand to know where it came from, and with his usual smoothness, he replies, "A long time ago, I bought some cryptocurrency. I forgot about it, but recently, when I needed money, I checked and saw it had gone up in value." His mother, relieved, praises him, saying, "That's perfect. You saved the family." She then turns to the uncle and tells him, "With this money, the debt is paid." The uncle, wanting to say something, is immediately told to leave. He's kicked out of the house, lost and defeated. He came to collect whatever was left of the family, knowing they were bankrupt, and thought he'd never get paid. But the real question now is, how did Shin Yuan manage to get so much money? Meanwhile, Shin Yuan completes his mission. The 200,000 turned into 400,000, and he also receives the 1 million that can only be spent on a car. The problem is, the only thing he paid off was the rent. There are still hundreds of millions in old company debts, and for now, this was the best way to help. He needed to keep multiplying his money to pay off the bigger debts. He asks if his parents need more money, but his mother says they're fine for now. The other bills aren't urgent and they can manage for a while. His father, however, isn't as calm. He asks for at least 50,000 as a loan. Shin Yuan just smiles, thinking about how he used to ask for money, remembering his father lounging in the mansion, reading a newspaper, while he came home from school exhausted, asking for spare change. Now, the tables have turned. The scene shifts back to college where he runs into his teacher. Everyone always pays extra attention in her class. He walks up and asks if she's free tonight, wanting to invite her to dinner. But then he feels a death stare from behind. It's Meng, glaring at him with her hands on her hips. Realizing she's his nemesis, he decides to drop it and just waves goodbye. Shin Yuan feels a bit of a sweat as he runs around all day, feeling submissive in a way he's not used to. He remembers the days when he was riding around in his Ferrari, hands on the wheel, handling important business. But now, here he is, running errands and playing the role of a nice guy. Then he remembers he received 1 million, but only for buying a car, so he calls Manhwa to join him on this adventure. Manhwa's friend immediately jokes, "If you're going back to the dorm for a one-on-one adventure, let me know so I can leave." She's a character, making things a bit easier for Shin Yuan. Manhwa tells her friend to stop talking nonsense, that they're not together. But her friend insists that Manhwa is lucky to have found a guy like him and predicts what's going to happen between them. At the car dealership, Shin Yuan and Manhwa arrive, and the salesman immediately greets her, recognizing her from school. Manhwa is polite but doesn't seem interested in engaging, while the salesman's focus is clearly on her. He tries to figure out who Shin Yuan is and what he's doing there. Shin Yuan introduces himself and says he wants to see the M9. The salesman knows this car costs around $600,000 and immediately doubts that Shin Yuan is serious, thinking he won't buy it. However, he decides to show him the car anyway, partly hoping that by spending time with Manhwa he might impress her with his success as an amazing salesman. Before the salesman can even get much further, Manhwa cuts him off, telling him she's not interested in talking and has other plans. But before he can respond, ᴄᴏᴘ, sensing an opportunity, asks to take the car for a test drive. The salesman is visibly irritated. He was too busy flirting and wasn't expecting this interruption. ᴄᴏᴘ, confident and unfazed, pushes forward, telling the reception desk he wants to speak to someone who knows how to sell cars. Out comes Shin-na, a top-tier salesperson at the dealership, who immediately catches ᴄᴏᴘ's attention. The original salesman watches helplessly as Shin-na steps in, convinced that ᴄᴏᴘ, being broke, is just showing off. But as ᴄᴏᴘ interacts with Shin-na, he's more focused on her beauty than the details of the car. Although Shin-na explains everything about the M9, ᴄᴏᴘ's mind isn't on the car anymore. He's only concerned with getting a car and driving it home. He casually says, "I don't care about the details. Just tell me you have one available right now, because I want to drive it home." ᴄᴏᴘ's smooth confidence continues to shine through as he handles the car situation with ease. The salesperson, Shin-na, is left stunned by how quickly he makes a decision to buy the car, leaving the original salesman in disbelief. Despite the short interaction, ᴄᴏᴘ's charm and the fact that he's not messing around with his money impress Shin-na, who agrees to speed up the process. When she mentions the 50,000 deposit, he reassures her with a casual, "Don't worry about it." As she walks down the hall to finalize everything, the clown salesman tries to figure out what happened, and Shin-na just casually states, "It was easy. He bought it." The other salesmen are shocked. They can't believe someone would buy a car so quickly with minimal discussion. Meanwhile, Manhwa's friend is skeptical, thinking ᴄᴏᴘ is a fraud who will disappear when it's time to pay. But Shin-na, confident in her judgment, disagrees. She tells them ᴄᴏᴘ plans to pay everything up front, which makes the original salesman regret not handling the situation better. Afterward, Shin-na thanks ᴄᴏᴘ, offering her number in case he needs a favor. Manhwa, ever the protective figure, quickly steps in, insisting that ᴄᴏᴘ doesn't need the number. She also makes it clear that they'll be taking a taxi back. Shin-na realizes she may have overstepped and made things awkward. Outside, as they walk through the streets, ᴄᴏᴘ offers to grab something to eat, but Manhwa is a little jealous and seems slightly annoyed. ᴄᴏᴘ, sensing this, reassures her that the interaction with Shin-na was purely business. Manhwa, realizing her own jealousy is a bit misplaced, tells herself she has no reason to feel that way since they aren't official. Still, she knows his lavish spending style is a magnet for attention, so she needs to lock him down. ᴄᴏᴘ, undeterred, continues to charm her. He insists on buying more presents for her, playing the psychological card that she can't wear the same bags every day. She finally agrees, and they head to the restaurant, where he asks her about hot or cold drinks. Manhwa, thinking he's asking about her period, quickly answers cold, but ᴄᴏᴘ, always playful, clarifies that he's been holding back for 2 months and is ready to be more direct. At the mall, ᴄᴏᴘ goes on a shopping spree, dropping bags, pendants, and necklaces worth a fortune. Manhwa, astonished at how much he's spent, starts to appreciate his generosity, even though she's also impressed by the speed at which he's accumulating wealth. By now, he's up to 2 million in his account, thanks to his earlier spending spree, and he's already strategizing to make even more money. Later that night, back at the dorm, things heat up. ᴄᴏᴘ, full of energy and swagger, walks in and announces that it's time for football and a touchdown. He's clearly ready for more, having just spent the day spoiling Manhwa. 30 minutes later, he's showered, feeling accomplished, while Manhwa seems to have no plans of letting up. She's ready for the second half, and he, still recovering from the first, is already begging for a break. But it's too late. She's ready to go again. ᴄᴏᴘ's smooth demeanor and overwhelming confidence keep him in the lead, no matter the situation. The next morning, ᴄᴏᴘ wakes up with that signature grin plastered on his face, his account now boasting around 2.5 million. His friend can't help but question him, asking where he's been and why he didn't return to the dorm. At the same time, he shows ᴄᴏᴘ that Jiangping has just bought a new car and is flaunting it all over the place. Shen Yuan just shrugs it off. He thinks Jiangping is adorable trying to flex, but he couldn't care less about his new ride. As they chat, someone calls Shen Yuan over for drinks, and that's when the system pops up with an offer. A perfect life isn't just about being admired by the opposite sex, it's also about business success. The system offers him 1 million to invest, with the catch that he has to spend all of it within 1 week. And any profits made from his business ventures will be doubled. Shen Yuan is thrilled. Not only is this a great opportunity, but he's also eager to create a legitimate source of income. He's tired of being the one who spends money on gifts. He wants to build something long-term, not just keep simping for presents. The friend who invited him for drinks is Lai Yuhan, an old acquaintance. At the Dragon's private bar, Shen Yuan enters the scene as a group of people, including Lin Guangyo, a guy in a Hawaiian shirt, and Heiji, a guy in a suit, are chatting. Lin Guangyo is hungry and impatient, while Heiji reassures him that the important people are on their way. Guangyo starts complaining about Shen Yuan's arrival, saying he has no reason to be there since his family went bankrupt. Yuhan, however, brushes off the negativity, telling everyone to be quiet and reminding them that he's covering the bill tonight. While the conversation continues, Guangyo's girlfriend, who's already annoyed with him, complains about his behavior. But the real tension begins when Heiji mentions his own girlfriend will be arriving soon. Guangyo doesn't like Heiji because he knows Heiji's girlfriend is top tier, and, just from the way she dresses, it's clear who she is. Shen Yuan finally arrives, dressed in ragged clothes, looking deliberately homeless. He apologizes for being late, but Yuhan reassures him it's fine, blaming the bad drivers. However, Guangyo throws a little jab at Shen Yuan, saying if he had a personal driver, he wouldn't have been late. And that's when the surprise enters the room. Chen Na, the car dealership girl, walks in. She apologizes for being late as well, and Heiji smirks, thinking he's already winning in the girlfriend department. But, to his dismay, Chen Na isn't paying attention to him. Instead, her eyes are on Shen Yuan, who she remembers from the car dealership. However, she doesn't engage with him directly, instead greeting her boyfriend Heiji. Later, Yuhan explains that he's gathered everyone for a huge investment opportunity. He needs to raise 2.4 million, expecting 700,000 from each person. But when he pitches the idea, it's met with silence and skepticism. His friends already know him for making bad investments in the past, mostly using his dad's money, and this time, they aren't eager to bite. As Yuhan presses for a response, Guangyo finally speaks up, saying he's not investing right now because he wants to play it safe and save his money. The others quickly follow suit, all echoing the same sentiment. They can't afford to lose money. Yuhan's frustration grows, but it's clear, no one's buying into his scheme this time. The room is tense, and Shen Yuan watches with a knowing smile, sensing that things are about to take a turn. The tension in the room is palpable as the group starts to realize that Shen Yuan isn't backing down. Guang Yao, the guy in the basketball jersey, is annoyed with the bad deal Yuhan's offering, but Yuhan is convinced his money-making plan is solid. Unfortunately, no one trusts him, and the room is full of skepticism. Then, Guang Yao jokingly suggests that if Yuhan needs to borrow money, that's a different story. He knows that if the investment works, Yuhan wins, and if it doesn't, he can just get his money back. Even Guang Yao jokes he might consider it, but quickly admits he doesn't have the cash. Shen Yuan, who's been standing there quietly, decides to take matters into his own hands. He asks Yuhan, "What do I get if I invest 700,000? The room goes silent. Guang Yao laughs at Shen Yuan, mocking him for his supposed broke family, and another guy in a cap puts his hand on Shen Yuan's shoulder, telling him to go wash his face because he must be drunk. Heiji, the guy in the suit, tries to explain that business isn't easy, and 700,000 could easily disappear. But as everyone doubts Shen Yuan, Chen Na, who's been quietly watching from the back, recalls how he casually dropped 600,000 on a car the day before without hesitation. Maybe 700,000 isn't too far-fetched for him after all. She decides to stay silent, not wanting to get involved. However, Shen Yuan doesn't wait for anyone's approval. Without a second thought, he says, "I already transferred 700,000. Yuhan checks his phone, and a transaction notification pops up, lighting up the screen like a stadium floodlight. He shows it to Guang Yao, whose face drains of color as he starts trembling. The entire room is stunned. Chen-na is curious about the sudden change in everyone's demeanor, and soon, the room is filled with people demanding answers. Even Heiji is curious now. Guangyao, however, refuses to add fuel to the fire, telling everyone to figure it out on their own. But deep inside, he's wondering how Xin Yuan was able to pull out that kind of money. Zhao Jing, the guy in the cap, walks over and asks what's going on. When no one answers, he quickly excuses himself, muttering that he has something to do at home. One by one, the others start leaving, and soon the room is empty. Heiji is left confused, not understanding why everyone's leaving. Chen-na, however, isn't sticking around. She's already heading outside, telling her boyfriend that there was no reason for her to stay. He doesn't understand why she's leaving, still unsure whether Xin Yuan actually transferred the money. That's when Chen-na reveals that Xin Yuan bought a car yesterday, paying in cash. Her boyfriend suddenly becomes angry, not at Xin Yuan, but at his girlfriend for not mentioning that Xin Yuan is rich. Chen-na, irritated by his reaction, decides she's had enough. She storms off, telling him that if all he cares about is a rich guy, she's out. Now, it's just Yuhan and Xin Yuan left in the bar. Yuhan sighs, regretting inviting the others, but Xin Yuan seems unbothered. He explains that it was a good way to show the group that they weren't trustworthy. Then he asks about the business plan. Yuhan finally reveals that they're planning to open a bar, and they start discussing the theme, operations, and decor in detail. An hour later, Xin Yuan gets a message from Chen-na telling him to pick up his car the next day. He responds casually, saying there's no rush and asks if she's free tomorrow because he's curious about the BMW M9. She's a bit confused, wondering why he's suddenly interested in the M9, but before she can reply, he sends another message, "See you at the restaurant tomorrow." The next day, Chen-na arrives at the meeting spot, wearing her work uniform, which looks more like a costume than anything else. Xin Yuan is late, and she's standing around waiting with some random guy. Then a chubby, bald dude walks by and spots her. Recognizing her, he decides to approach her, seeing an opportunity to hit on her. His friends are watching from outside, curious if he'll succeed. But most of them are skeptical, thinking Chen-na isn't the type to entertain guys like him. Among the group is Heiji, her jealous boyfriend, who asks who she's waiting for. Just as the chubby guy approaches Chen-na and asks to join her, she instantly refuses. The situation takes a wild turn when Xin Yuan steps into the cafe and sees Chen-na fending off a chubby guy who's clearly trying to make his move. Heiji, unaware of the full story, jumps in and flips out, accusing the guy of betraying him. A physical altercation breaks out, and it's clear that things are getting messy. By the time Xin Yuan arrives, he instantly grasps what's going on and thanks the chubby guy for taking the punch meant for him. He smoothly pulls Chen-na aside, suggesting they get somewhere more private to talk. Inside the car, Chen-na opens up about her situation with Heiji. She admits that after 2 weeks of being with him, she realizes he's not the right guy. Xin Yuan, ever the smooth talker, reassures her that things are now settled. But Chen-na isn't so sure. The punch Heiji threw at her boss means she'll likely be treated badly at work from now on. Xin Yuan, not missing a beat, suggests she quit her job and find something better. She reveals the challenge in her line of work. Changing dealerships isn't easy, especially when she's built a client base over the years. She's tired of being a saleswoman and dreams of owning her own store, a simple cafe. But the price of opening one is steep, and she doesn't have the savings. Seizing the opportunity, Xin Yuan offers to invest in her dream. He suggests that if she were to put in $100,000, they could open the cafe together. His pitch is convincing, and he even offers her $12,000 a month plus bonuses if she manages it well. The sweetener? If the cafe does well in the first 2 months, he'll gift her a $200,000 car. At this point, Xin Yuan's throwing a lot of money around, and it's hard to ignore the offer. But Chen-na is hesitant. She's not comfortable depending on him, especially knowing that she'd be the third wheel in this situation. Despite his offer, she politely declines, saying she needs time to think it over. Xin Yuan respects her decision and they move on, but it's clear that he's got plans in motion. Later, Xin Yuan receives a message from Manhwa, who wants to grab some iced tea. He agrees, but she's quick to notice something's off when she smells another woman's perfume on him. Shen Yuan tries to explain, saying it was just lingering from a situation earlier, but Manhwa isn't entirely convinced. She makes it clear that if he sees any other woman he needs to tell her. Shen Yuan promises, but it's clear his main focus is his growing money trees and his future plans. The story takes another intriguing turn as Shen Yuan's affection for Manhwa reaches 90, unlocking some unexpected rewards. A lottery ticket worth 1 million, a spending voucher for 1 million, and a new skill called Ruthless. While the money is definitely a blessing, especially with the family debts looming, the new skill, Ruthless, catches his attention. What could this skill mean for Shen Yuan's future, and how will it impact his already complicated life? The game is definitely changing for him. Shen Yuan, now with his Ruthless skill activated, feels a change, but not in the way he expected. Instead of becoming more ruthless in combat, it affects his approach to everyday life, making him more decisive and direct. Manhwa notices something different about him and is a little shaken, but she can't quite put her finger on it. However, she's not ready to back down from their competition and declares she's done, but Shen Yuan's response is that she simply needs more practice. On the other side, Na is talking to a friend about the offer Shen Yuan made to invest 300,000 in her cafe idea. Her friend is skeptical, warning her that it's rare for someone to invest so much money with no strings attached. Na, however, is confident, having seen how much he's already spent. She's impressed not only by his wealth but by his looks. Her friend jokes that she should go for it since he's young, handsome, and willing to invest. Na hesitates, citing his being 5 years younger than her, but her friend laughs it off and tells her to seize the opportunity. Meanwhile, Shen Yuan is excited to check his lottery ticket the next morning and discovers that he's won $6.8 million. He rushes home to tell his parents, but his mother is initially skeptical, thinking he's lost his mind. His father, though, quickly checks the numbers and realizes it's true. After taxes, Shen Yuan will have $5 million, which he plans to use to pay off debts and invest some for himself. He decides to take $1 million for himself and leave the rest for his parents. Their reaction, however, is underwhelming. They thank him but seem almost too calm for such good news. At the dealership, the chubby boss who got punched by Heiji confronts Na about the incident. Even though she claims it had nothing to do with her, the boss is determined to make her suffer for it. He fires her for not showing up the previous day, despite her having permission. He bans her from selling anything for a month, which means no commissions and possibly no way to pay rent. Na, fed up with the situation, decides to quit. She tells her boss that she's done and will never return to the dealership. The clown boss, still upset, tries to get the last word. He tells Na, think carefully. If you leave, you can't come back. But she's already walking away with a confident swagger. She doesn't need to think twice. Swag mode activated. Working for Shen Yuan seems like a much better option than staying in this toxic place. After all, he's not some old man like the rest of them. She waves goodbye to the dealership, telling the boss, "I'm never coming back." 30 minutes later, Shen Yuan gets a message from Na saying she's ready to quit. He congratulates her. "Took you long enough to escape hell. Now we just need to find a good location for your store." Meanwhile, Naoki, the hard-working student, is helping his teacher with a heavy box, and Shen Yuan arrives just in time to assist. As always, he gets close to her, and she wonders if he's developing feelings. But when other students arrive, she's embarrassed, seeing her face turn red as a tomato. Shen Yuan doesn't notice, though, as his affinity points with her increase, making her heart skip a beat. The scene shifts to the villains in the south side, where Jinping, the rich guy with a new car, is getting annoyed because Manhwa keeps rejecting him. He's still smug about his car, though, and is talking to a couple of girls who are impressed by his wealth. However, when he sees Na walking by, he can't help but make a comment about her long legs. But the real shock comes when he notices a familiar face, Shen Yuan, arriving in a fancy car. Jinping is confused. How could this guy, who everyone knows as the newly broke guy, be driving such an expensive car? The car itself is mysterious, Possibly a high-end Chinese luxury model or something that rivals even a Tesla. The girls nearby recognize Xin Yuan instantly, but Jingping, still baffled, is left wondering what's going on. As they head into a cafe, Chen Na greets Xin Yuan with a friendly, "Hey there, boss," causing Jingping to stare, mouth agape. He's trying to figure out how Xin Yuan could go from dating one girl to being with someone even more attractive. The cafe owner, Lai Yuqing, arrives, and she seems to be in a similar situation, struggling to keep her cafe afloat while dealing with personal issues. She offers to sell the place for 300,000. Xin Yuan, however, is quick to negotiate, offering her 250,000. She hesitates but sees how serious he is, agreeing to finalize the deal that very day. The moment the papers are signed, the money will be transferred to her account. She calls the girls nearby, and they all gather around, intrigued by the new owner. Xin Yuan introduces Chen Na as the new manager of the cafe. He explains that he won't be around much, but this is her chance to take charge. The girls, including the Hollywood tier villainous one, overhear the conversation and gasp at the unexpected turn of events. Xin Yuan's influence is undeniable, and his confidence is clearly paying off. The scene continues with Xin Yuan and Chen Na, where things are moving at a rapid pace. Shen Yuan's investment in the cafe was a bold move, dropping 250,000 in an instant for his girlfriend. Meanwhile, Jiangping, the clown boss, is fuming with rage. But just as things are about to get worse, Yuqing, the cafe owner, gets a phone call. She stands up to take it, but when Chen Na sees the name on the phone, her expression freezes. It's him, the man who fired her from the dealership. The realization hits hard. Xin Yuan, seething with anger, vents about the man. That bastard has a hot wife at home, but still flirts with all the girls at work. What a despicable man. He wants to warn Yuqing about her husband's true nature, but she doesn't want to know. Xin Yuan, concerned for her, advises, "You're about to let a man with too much money and no family get away. That's dangerous. You never know what he could do." Yuqing, now deep in thought, thanks him for the advice, realizing he's right. She hadn't considered how much of a threat her husband could be. Shen Yuan, now invested in the cafe, transfers 50,000 as her salary and tells her, "I'm looking forward to seeing how the first week goes." And just like that, he spent his first million and officially entered the world of junior investments. The system, however, is far from done with him. With 10 million more to spend, Xin Yuan is ready to expand even further. Once it's all spent, the profits from his investments will triple. Yuqing returns, grateful for the help. She says, "It was nice doing business with you." Shen Yuan shakes her hand, feeling the softness of her hand linger in his mind. His thoughts wander to the possibilities, but he shakes it off. 30 minutes later, he takes Chen Na to a fancy restaurant to celebrate. As always, he's quick to make his move, asking why she's sitting so far away, pulling her closer with ease. While Xin Yuan is calculating his next move, Chen Na is skeptical. She knows there's always an ulterior motive behind Xin Yuan's actions. She wonders if he genuinely wants to make money from the cafe or if he has other reasons. Shen Yuan, meanwhile, is too focused on the moment, enjoying the luxury of the dinner he's treating her to. He's already spent a fortune, but to him, it's just another drop in the ocean of his wealth. Later, after dinner, Shen Yuan calmly pays the bill, making it look effortless, though the amount spent is what she would make selling a luxury car. As they leave the restaurant, Chen Na suggests going back to the cafe to talk to the owner, but Shen Yuan, ever the strategist, convinces her it's too late. With a resigned sigh, she agrees to go home instead. They arrive at her apartment, and as she waves goodbye, Shen Yuan, ever the charmer, claims, "I'm really thirsty. That walk made me crave a drink of water." Chen Na isn't naive, though. She knows what he's up to and quickly shoots him down. "That water you're talking about, it's not appropriate." Shen Yuan, puzzled, asks, "What? Is there a guy in your house?" She rolls her eyes and says, "Obviously not." Shen Yuan, always up to something, had already set his sights on his next goal, buying a house for Chen Na. After spending the night together, he decided that he'd spoil her, buying her a property, and of course, he'd do it in grand fashion. But it wasn't just any house. He envisioned one with a pool, where they could all hang out, relaxing while he enjoyed his time with them. But this decision came with a little push from the system, always lurking in the background, telling him he needed to buy a 100-square-meter house for Chen-na within 24 hours, with the promise that all his expenses would be doubled and he'd get a mystery property as a bonus. Shen Yuan wasn't one to back down from a challenge like this, especially when the stakes involved a woman he cared for and an effortless system that made money appear out of thin air. Meanwhile, Chen-na, having woken up early and made breakfast for Shen Yuan, was busy in the kitchen, completely unaware of the plans already unfolding. Shen Yuan, with his usual nonchalance, praised her for being so kind. Waking up in a woman's house was a whole different experience than staying in a hotel, and this time, the situation felt just right. As they enjoyed breakfast, Shen Yuan, being the smooth talker he is, casually mentioned buying her a house. At first, Chen-na thought he was just joking or doing it for some other ulterior motive, but when he kissed her cheek and whispered the promise in her ear, her expression froze in surprise. This was no joke. It wasn't that she didn't deserve it, but she had no idea someone could just buy a house so casually. Money doesn't grow on trees, you know, she sighed, still processing everything. But to Shen Yuan, it was as easy as breathing. He pulled her into a tight hug, assuring her there was nothing wrong with buying a house for his woman, and he even hinted that it was about time they moved out of her apartment because things got too noisy the night before. But before they could dive deeper into house shopping, Chen-na received a message from her friend, Qian, who wanted to meet at the cafe. Shen Yuan, however, wasn't in the mood for more distractions. He refused to spend the entire day looking at houses, so she rescheduled to meet her friend later that night. Meanwhile, Qian, together with her tall, purple-haired friend Menglu, was busy speculating about Chen-na's new life. Qian couldn't believe that a guy would spend $300,000 so easily, and Menglu, ever the skeptic, didn't think it was true. But when Qian received a message from Chen-na saying Shen Yuan was buying her a house, she screamed. Menglu, on the other hand, was about to faint. The difference between buying bags and buying houses was astronomical in her eyes. Determined to get a piece of the action, Menglu quickly decided that she needed to take advantage of this situation. She convinced Qian to find out where Chen-na and Shen Yuan were looking at houses so they could join them. 40 minutes later, they arrived at the Tianji real estate district, where even the most basic houses cost millions. Chen-na was taken aback by the grandeur of the area, unsure how to react to such extravagant possibilities. It didn't take long for Qian to spot her friends. She walked up, greeting them with a warm smile and introducing the others, Menglu and Ruda, another friend. Menglu, however, had her own way of making an entrance, contorting her body like a pretzel as if she had stepped out of a Game of Thrones scene. The dynamics between these friends and Shen Yuan were shaping up to be as interesting as his ongoing adventure in navigating the world of wealth, romance, and all the perks that came with his mysterious abilities. The tension in the air was palpable as the girls followed Shen Yuan through the luxury real estate district. Menglu, ever the determined one, had her eyes set on him, and she wasn't about to back down. She showed off a little, bending down and throwing something over her shoulder before getting straight to the point. "You've got a good body, but you should come to my gym and sweat a little." It was a challenge, one that only Shen Yuan could handle in his usual, smooth manner. With a smirk, he replied, "If I go to your gym, it'll be hard to focus on the workout." She caught his meaning immediately. He was flirting with her, right in front of Chen-na. That was enough to make her realize that Shen Yuan and Chen-na weren't a couple, at least not in the way she had assumed. As if that wasn't enough, Qian noticed the bruise on Chen-na's knee, a reminder of the wild night of football. "When you're ready to change cars, I know a great place to buy Ferraris," Qian suggested, likely trying to outdo Menglu. Shen Yuan, ever the charmer, just smiled and thanked her. It was then that he realized something important. These girls, Qian and Menglu, weren't exactly the best of friends to Chen-na. But for Shen Yuan, that didn't matter. He was only interested in building his own harem of women, and as long as they had an affinity score above 60, he was all in. Walking through the luxury district, he felt the weight of envy from the husbands around. They probably wanted to strangle him as he strolled around with 3 stunning women, acting like buying a house was just another day at the office. This was the life he had always imagined, and now it was real. A real estate agent approached him, asking if he would like to see some models. As she began to explain, he cut her off with a casual, "I came here to spend 3 million. What can I get for that?" The agent nodded, impressed, and took him straight to the VIP section. Meanwhile, Qian and Menglu couldn't hide their shock. What kind of quadrillionaire just casually spends 3 million like it's nothing? Their curiosity was piqued, but it only made Menglu more determined to snag Shen Yuan's attention. Later, as they all sat on a luxurious couch, the agent recommended a 165 square meter home for 2.9 million. It was a perfect fit, but Chen Na, still cautious, grabbed his arm and whispered, "Don't buy this. It's way too expensive." But Shen Yuan, with his usual confidence, reassured her, "Don't worry. All I want is a comfortable home." The words were enough to make the other girls green with envy. They hadn't expected him to be so nonchalant about the whole thing, and it was clear now that he wasn't just playing with his wealth, he was using it to attract exactly what he wanted. The scene was perfect, and with every move he made, Shen Yuan cemented his place as the man who could have it all, effortlessly.